So, hello, welcome to Virtual Speed Networking for 2021. My name is Lori Haight, and I serve as the Career Services Coordinator at SILS. And tonight we are having professionals and students interact in a grand experiment that we hope works. And so we really appreciate you taking the time and to be part of our experiment. First, I'd like to send it over to Hilary.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Hilary Fox, and I'm currently a research librarian for agriculture over at NC State. But I'm here tonight because I'm the president of the SILS Alumni Association, who has worked really closely with Lori to help put this event on. We actually have a few other alumni board members, if you all want to wave to show who you are, who will be acting as some of the professionals tonight. But on behalf of the board, we just really wanted to say thank you for coming tonight, both to the students and to the professionals. As students, we personally feel like you're making a really smart decision by joining, because you're broadening your social network, and you're also getting the chance to ask some pros, some tips on what it's like being in the industry. And for the professionals, I'm just looking around and getting so excited, all these faces I recognize. Thank you for taking the time to volunteer and give back to SILS. We are especially excited about tonight because typically this event is done in person. And while that means you get free pizza with the in-person, we also miss out on being able to get a larger diversity of professionals. So I think just looking at the screen, it's really a testament to how far SILS arms stretch, because we have people in all different types of IS fields on the call with us right now, as well as coming from all different types of locations. So overall, I think this is going to be a really great night, and I hope that you all enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you, Hilary. So what we're going to do now is we're going to have the professionals introduce themselves in the large group. So the students will be able to know who they're joining in the breakout rooms, and it'll save us some time when we're in the breakout room for the students to be able to introduce themselves and have any of their questions answered. So I'm going to call through our 7 professionals today. If you could start with your title and where you work and how you're connected to SILS. I think we might have all alums, but we have had alums and friends of SILS, so whichever works is great. And geographically where you're calling in from today is also fun. So we'll start with Anita.
Hi, everyone. My name is Anita Jotwani. My affiliation with SILS is I graduated from SILS in 2005 as an information science bachelor's. So I'm a BSIS. And outside of that, I now professionally work at Walmart Corporate, based in Durham, North Carolina. So I get to the luxury of working remotely regardless of the pandemic, except now I don't have business travel. So that's kind of nice for a change. But I actually head up our global people analytics group. So my team is responsible for developing not only, we think about fancy reports and dashboards around just people data about our employees across the company. We do it for the entire company. And we also build solutions like machine learning and AI solutions around, developing programs and creating opportunities on, fair hiring practices, all the way through things like just making more data accessible to people in really meaningful, easy to use ways. And I think one really cool thing is we have this little, it's not a mobile app yet, but it will be a mobile app, but no more fancy reports. If you had a question about how many people have left my team in the last year, you can literally ask the question and we can now answer that for you within seconds. So pretty cool things that my team works on. So look forward to your questions.
Thanks, Anita. Corey?
Hi, all. I'm Corey Webster. I graduated with the BSIS in information science in 2013. Close friends with Hilary, known her for a long time. But professionally these days, I work in Cornelius, North Carolina, and home base is in Charlotte. So it's not a terrible commute, but it's nice to be working from home as well, not unlike Anita. So I've been enjoying that lately. I work in web development. So I've done everything from hardcore IT, networking, building systems, but now currently focused on software development specifically. So I work a lot with Angular, with different development technologies to build web APIs. Anita, again, would know a lot about this, but yeah, I work for a company called Financial Independence Group. So they're focused more on the private sector, supporting individual salesmen who work with like annuities and different types of financial technologies like that. And I help build the CRMs as well as all the websites and our current mobile app. So yeah, I think I covered everything.
Yes, thank you.
Mhm.
Erin.
Hey, everybody. I work at, well, first of all, I graduated from SILS as an MSIS in 2014. So definitely some overlap with some other folks on this call. You may see us heavily represented because we were kind of calling on our networks. A lot of people stay friends after SILS, and I think that's wonderful. My current job is at Cisco, working at RTP. I live in Chapel Hill, just south of town. And I actually work in the facilities group. We're called Workplace Resources. It's a really interesting job. We function as kind of a smaller business within the larger corporate structure. And that makes it so that I have exposure to a lot of things. On a given day, I can be working on a knowledge management project. I can be doing some graphic design, working on executive communications, and it's a really fun job. It lets me stretch my legs, and I use stuff that I learned from SILS every single day.
Thank you. Heather.
Hi, everyone. I'm Heather Gunter. I graduated with a BSIS in 2015. I'm currently based out of Washington, D.C., and work at a small nonprofit called the Partnership for Public Service. So we work with the federal government, and my role there is with our federal technology leadership programs. So my background's in project management. Prior to joining this nonprofit, I worked in technology consulting at PwC for 5 years.
Thank you. Hong.
Hi, I'm probably one of the newer member of the alumni group here. I graduated from SILS, from the Masters of Information Science program, 2019, right? So not too long ago. And then 5 months after I started my current job at a consulting firm, global consulting firm, COVID started. So not too long after that. Previously, I worked at a startup for a couple of years as a multimedia designer / web developer, because it's a startup. So you get to do everything, and you have to do everything. I learned a lot there, taught myself a lot. But before that, my undergraduate was actually in multimedia and technologies. And it was a very applied kind of major. And I didn't feel like I had nearly enough of a theoretical foundation to help me succeed in my professional environments, which is why I pursued a master's degree after coming to SILS, and very glad I did it. I currently am located about 15 minutes away from campus. So if the pandemic's over and any of you students go back to campus, I'll be happy to meet up. And if there's any opportunity or anything that you need, be happy to help.
Thank you. Mary G.
All right. I think we have a few Marys. Yeah, okay. First time that's happened. My name is Mary Gillen. I graduated from SILS in 2014 with my Master of Science in Information Science, like a lot of other folks here. Like Erin, I also work at Cisco in RTP. I live in Durham, North Carolina. And at Cisco, I work on more of the technical side of house. So my role is called the High Touch Operations Manager, or HTOM for short. And I help support some of our largest ISP customers. So those are your companies like Cox Communications, Charter, everyone's favorite ISP Spectrum, those fun guys. And in that role, I do a lot of data analytics on behalf of the customer, trending analysis, process and procedure development. and manage all of their technical service requests that are opened with Cisco and ensure that we are getting to the solutions that they need in time and appropriately and all that fun stuff. So a lot of different hats, a lot of SILS skills go into my job, which I'm always grateful about. And yeah, happy to talk to you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Peterson.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mary Peterson. I am a BSIS 13 and an MSIS 15. So yay, double hooray. I am a user experience researcher at UKG, which was previously Kronos and Ultimate Software. We just went through a merger. Let me tell you, mergers during a pandemic, super fun. We do HR software. It's actually now the largest HR software company in the world, I believe. We're like 12,000 people. I am the actual sole researcher for one of our flagship products. We are very slowly growing that team, but I started it about 18 months ago, and literally use things that I learned at SILS every single day. Like I was running user tests 2 hours ago. So.
Wow.
Thank you. Wonderful. Well, at this point in the evening, I'm going to pause recording and explain. Welcome back. Thank you very much. I'm so excited we didn't lose anyone. So this is the time of the program where we're going to ask some general questions just to see if we can share among the professionals here today what's going on. So our first question is, what professional development organization or activity has been the most helpful in your career? And please feel free to unmute yourself and we can just have a little bit of dialogue. Yes. Yes.
I was very shy, and you can probably tell I'm still a little shy nowadays. Just being, coming from Asian culture and all that. Not insinuating anything, but just the kind of culture that we're from. And I think I've tried different things, a lot of different things, going to events, talking to people. Throughout the past years, I've joined a lot of different groups and just making attempts. And over the years, the biggest conclusion I've came down to is just that you have to systematically learn how you as a person, your personality works when you're networking, right? There are different things that works for different people. A lot of times when you're starting out in a professional field, or when you're leaving school, you're getting told that you should go out and network, meet people, right? That's a very basic kind of catch-all way of doing it. But then nuances in terms of how do you best approach people, being the kind of personality you are, what kind of events do you find yourself comfortable in, and you can make most out of your time, right? Do you like going into a sort of semi-formal kind of event? Do you like to go to talks? What kind of people what kind of conversations do you like? Do you like being in a group? Do you like one-on-one, right? So understanding systematically how effective you can be in when you're networking, but also personally that applies for you. I think that's very important, right? There are a lot of books and resources out there that try to teach you XYZ, which is helpful in that, but it has to work for you at the end of the day.
That's a great point.
Yeah, totally agree. And to add on to that, for me personally, it's hard to recall a specific thing that helped me get my foot in the door, like a professional organization, because really the first job I took out of college was in a support capacity, just doing like telesupport for a software company. And because I made myself available for that, because I went to something that I otherwise, like I've had no plans on doing support for the rest of my life, but through that company, I was able to say, oh, they have a development department as well. If I work this for a little while, I'm going to try and go ahead and shave off some knowledge from these guys and figure out what I need to know in order to get to the other side of things. And then from there, that just kind of snowballs into eventually you have enough knowledge, you have the confidence, and you can do the job, even if you didn't know that was what you wanted to do in the first place.
Yeah, I'll actually chime in right off that. So like Corey, I actually started in a help desk-esque type role out of college. And I think there's two things that I learned from that experience. One is people love yelling at help desk people. So whenever you call that 1-800
That's a
customer
great
success
point.
number, please be really nice to that poor person on the other end, because it's likely somebody that's just graduated college that has really no idea what they signed themselves up for. So that's one. Two, I'm really nice to people on customer service now. But two, I think the other thing is keep an open mind. Especially where we pick professions that we want to go deep in. So you can always learn something really deeply if you're passionate about it, but then you also put blinders on of how to apply that skill set outside of what you do day in, day out. So I think it's like I had to learn pretty quickly that as much as I loved doing one thing, when I start paying attention, I realized how I could use that in other spaces, and I became much more effective at moving across the organization, finding different opportunities, and then moving outside of the organization and translating my skill set. But I had to force myself to look for that and look how my own skill sets translated.
I'll follow up on that too, which is that I think networking organizations can be really helpful for meeting a lot of people really fast. But for me, the best networking has happened organically. Just from working with others and building those relationships and building that trust, because that's when you get the momentum to jump into other places, because someone remembers you and they think of you and they say, oh, I think Mary has a skill set for that actually. Like maybe we should see if she wants to come over. Getting into Cisco, I didn't know anybody, but every role I've taken in Cisco has been because I worked with someone and they found me to be trustworthy and dependable, and that's what really helped me. So keep that in mind when you're networking, that it's not always what can this person do for me, it's what can I do to prove myself so that they remember me later on.
Yeah, Mary, that's been my experience. Absolutely. Every time I've gotten a good role, it's because I knew someone who knew my capabilities. I would also say don't hesitate to jump into a leadership role, even if you don't know that much about, whatever group you're joining. Go to a few meetings and then be like, hey, do you need any more board members? Is there like a youth committee? Because that's another great way for people to get to know your actual skill set, as opposed to just like, hi, I'm Erin, nice to meet you. There's not a whole lot of meat there.
I also want to echo every job I've gotten has been because I have known somebody or I know somebody who knows somebody. So I don't know if they still make people read the Grando Vetter paper on weak tie networks, but it's so true. But yeah, no, and the thing is, it's the people who I happen to know, the person who I happen to know who got my resume to be looked at for my current position. They did fundraising. It was not anything at all. We happened to work in the same office, but we didn't cross paths. It was just some guy who I was friendly with because our kids were the same age. So literally everything is always a networking opportunity. And I hate networking. I just make friends.
Mary, that's a great point about how it doesn't have to be someone who does the same work you do. I think sometimes people forget that. About how you know more people than just IS people, right? And how that can help. How about, are there SILS classes that were helpful to you during your time at SILS that you, some of you in your introductions even referred to some of the things that you learned that This is always an interesting question to ask because I'm not sure if we still offer them, but let's hear if there are classes that you enjoyed and have been helpful in your career.
User testing with Rob Capra. It's what actually made me do this. I fell in love with user testing, and that's how I ended up where I am today.
As much as I'm loath to say it, organization of information was super important for me. I mean, it literally taught me the building blocks of how data structures work and how information gets organized. And I kid you not, like every single day, there's something from that class that I'm like, oh, I'm really glad I took it, even though I hated it. It was really important.
Yeah, for me, information visualization with Brad Heminger, that's what got my foot in the door, because everybody wants those analytics capabilities, and knowing Tableau and being able to just do that, you know, the first day you step in, it's great.
I can't even remember the name of mine, but it was SILS 200. Oh goodness, I should have looked all this up beforehand. But basically, that was the class that exposed me to the technology behind all of the websites that we used. It was an intro to SILS. So we did like I found out a little bit about databases, a little bit about Wikipedia, as I mentioned in the breakout, but it taught me basically the basics, and it taught me that there's so much more that you can go down this path with. So that was the first one that really got me interested, and from there it just ballooned into more and more.
Yeah, I would say it's really funny because being a BSIS in 05, the program didn't have dedicated undergraduate courses. There was very few of them. So I took a lot of classes with the master's students. So I think that one really defined the experience for me because I learned from professionals as my peers as well. But I think there's a few. The organization of information was super important. I still use it every single day. Outside of that, there was a earlier version of kind of like the intro to UX type class. And it was taught by Megan Wingett, who is still there. And that was like her first year at SILS at the time. So I would say that was actually really defining for me and incited my passion in building beautiful products. And so when I became a product manager many years later, I think I brought all my books out and I was just like, we're going to do this right, because I was always in organizations that didn't have a dedicated UX function at first. That was only something that was developed much later in my career. So it was really me having to put that lens on my work for myself and for my customers.
Great. Well, I'd like to do the second breakout room. So, oh, thanks, Heather, for putting that in the chat. I appreciate it.
Heather, I agree. That one, yeah, that was my other one that I use it all the time.
Great. So what we're going to do is we're going to have, I'm going to pause our recording and we're.
Sorry, Mary G, cut you off there at the end.
I don't know. I forgot what I was going to say.
Welcome back.
Hello.
Thanks.
Yes, I think everybody's back. Thank you very much I want to take the time to thank our professionals tonight for volunteering their time and expertise and energy to help our future alums. And students, I want to thank you for participating. This was a new type of event where you couldn't just be a fly on the wall. So we really appreciate that you took advantage of this. So thank you to SILSAA for finding this great lineup, and we hope we can continue to do this in the future. Even if we are mostly in person, we like the idea that this can be alums from everywhere. So thank you very much for attending tonight.